Just a moment to put some perspective. Now, takeaway number one, there are 2,510 cases in Mumbai. That's the highest in more than 7 months. And remember, many of this rise has taken place in the last few days. On December 24th, the city had recorded 683 cases. It took just 4 days to double to 1377, and now they've doubled in almost a single day from 1377 to 2,510. That's a jump of 82%. Now, the fact is, while there is this big takeaway in caseload, it is not in death numbers. There is absolutely no increase in terms of deaths. Take a look at the surge in active cases in Mumbai and deaths. From 2,419 cases on December 22, active cases have gone up to 8,060. But the good news is that there are no rise in deaths recorded. This remains, as you can see there, in single digits. So what is very clear is while caseloads are increasing, the virus doesn't seem to be as virulent, at least as of now. We can take a look at Delhi now, because the third wave here, there are 923 cases reported in the national capital in the last 24 hours. Test positivity has crossed 1%. So the city has been put in the amber zone. So the test positivity has increased. Now, this is from 249 to 496. It took 4 days for caseload to rise. From 496, it's gone up to 923 in just 24 hours. That's an 86% jump. The test positivity rate in the city, however, is about 1.29%. So technically, Delhi is in the amber zone and may invite more restrictions than those that were announced yesterday. However, remember again, here hospitalizations remain low. So what's very clear, and this is our next takeaway, hospitalizations are under control in Delhi. While there's a jump in active cases, hospitalizations, we are told, are completely under control. While the active cases jumped from 624 on December 22nd to 2,191 today, the hospitalizations are around static, around 260 mark through this period. 115 of these patients in hospital are travelers who've come from abroad, and they are only showing mild symptoms, probably of Omicron. So the good news remains that the hospitalizations are low at the moment. Most patients have mild symptoms. Takeaway number 5, no big jump in Bengaluru and Chennai. The surge therefore seems to be limited to Delhi and Mumbai for now. In Chennai, for instance, it took 1 month for the cases to rise from 98 to 196. In Bengaluru too, the numbers are consistently hovering around 200. It was 205 on December 16th, rose to 248 on December 27th, and the city has seen a dip in daily infections in the middle. Therefore, we will raise the big questions. Is the third wave here? Does the low level of hospitalizations give us hope? Is Omicron driving the latest COVID surge? Are weekend and night curfews effective? And will more stringent curbs be required now? Joining me now are our special guests tonight. Dr. Shashank Joshi is member of Maharashtra's COVID Task Force. Dr. Hemant Thakkar is consultant physician who's been on several of our doctor roundtables. Dr. Romel Tikku is Director Internal Medicine at Max Healthcare. Dr. K. Srinath Reddy is President Public Health Foundation of India. Thank you all very much for joining us. 4 top doctors. Let's get your first reactions to these numbers and the spike that's taken place. Dr. Joshi, you're at the heart of it. Mumbai registering more than 2,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Is this cause for worry, or are you optimistic because hospitalizations remain low?
This is a cause for concern and caution. There is no need to panic. Clearly 2,500 cases. Look at the doubling time. In the doubling time has been only 4 days. From 600 cases to 1,330 plus cases yesterday, and from 1,330 to 2,500 cases today. So, and all cases are mild, and hospital infrastructure is not at all dented, which means indirectly, even without a genomic sequencing, the Delta has been in Mumbai more than 80% replaced by Omicron. No question asked about it. It is a clear-cut diagnosis there. And therefore, Omicron is a milder strain. Hospitalizations are less, severe disease is less, mortality is less. And let us hope and pray that the entire Delta is fully replaced by Omicron, which is a milder disease. Only thing is the numbers are huge and we can still dent it.
But can I get clarity, doctor, from you? You're telling me that this rise is driven largely by Omicron, even without the genome sequencing? You're telling me that?
Absolutely. Because if you have 2 times doubling going up in a span of such a short duration of 4 to 5 days, the data is overwhelming and clear-cut that this is Omicron. So I can bet my last bet on it that when they do the genome sequencing, 80% or more will be Omicron. There is no question asked. This is a clinical diagnosis.
Okay.
It is mild disease. Hospitals are not overwhelmed. We are seeing more than 2,500 cases per day. And still, in the hospital system, this is not Delta for sure. This is not Delta derivative for sure. This is Omicron.
Okay,
and there is community cluster outbreak in Mumbai for sure. Third wave in Mumbai has started. No question asked.
Third wave in Mumbai has started, but you're saying the symptoms are mild and it's being driven by Omicron. Dr. Hemant Thakkar, does that also, in a way, confirm what you're seeing in hospitals?
Yes, just today I've seen about 45 patients, and in the last 3 days we have seen more than 250 cases. But as Dr. Joshi correctly put it, there is infection without disease and consultation without admission and anxiety more than mortality and morbidity. We are not seeing critical patients. The patients who are being hospitalized or want to come to hospital are coming for caution and precaution. And we are fairly and squarely at the climb of the wave. Why should we get worried? This wave is going to come because we've had hordes of people coming in from Europe, Dubai, where have you, and they have flooded, especially Mumbai, in every nook and corner, which is why the D ward, which is why Nepean Sea Road, Breach Candy, other places are multiplying. And the transmissibility of this virus being so strong. In the good old days with Delta, we had husband becoming positive and maybe wife getting positive. Now we are having families getting positive, floors getting positive. I have a hostel where the whole dormitory is positive. But this is like the common cold and the flu. So I think Omicron is going to replace the Delta, which it already has, and is going to run through the population like a sweeping wave. See what's happened to Africa. In South Africa, it was I came, I saw, I conquered, and then I went away. And it left everybody seropositive with more antibodies.
So are you saying that are you saying that this rise will be followed by an equally sharp fall, that you will see a surge? Cases could go up to, I am told by BMC sources, they expect it to go up to 8,000, 10,000 a day, and there'll be an equally sharp fall. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the surge may be even more than 10,000 a day. You may not be able to measure it too, but the fall also will be quite quick. The South African wave disappeared in 3.5 weeks. We are a large country. We may take 6 weeks. But Mumbai, with the highest number, will peak first in the country and will peter out also first in the country. What we have to do is keep our wits about ourselves. Do not panic. Do not run to the bar to get cocktails. Do not pop pills just because they've been introduced. Be and copy the influenza. You can take an influenza vaccine but still suffer from flu. So follow your doctor, follow the BMC, do not panic. And I'm so happy a channel like yours has decided to distribute this knowledge all over the country.
I'll come to you in a moment of the treatment that we need. Dr. Romel Tikku, here in the national capital, do you also share what is being suggested by both Dr. Joshi and Dr. Thakkar, that this is Omicron replacing Delta, which in some ways is good news because these are mild symptoms? Are you also seeing most of your patients have mild symptoms and do not necessarily need to be hospitalized?
Yes, I agree with Dr. Thakkar and Dr. Joshi. We are seeing mild symptoms only. Though there's been a huge surge from 400 odd to 900 compared to what we saw a month back, we hardly had any cases. But whatever cases we're seeing are probably Omicron cases because there's been a sudden huge spike. And the disease seems to be mild. Almost nobody, none of them needs hospitalization or steroids for that matter. And most of them are mild and are under home isolation.
So what are the symptoms that you're finding with the patient, Dr. Tikku? Is it a sore throat and very mild fever?
It's fever, scratchy throat, runny nose, fatigue, backache, headache. Loss of sense of smell is not there in too many cases. That's the difference. And too much of cough is in there. And the fever is also settling in 2-3 days. So it seems to be a mild variant, but we cannot dismiss it like that. It still poses a huge risk given what it has done and fueled outbreaks in Most countries in Europe, if you look at US, UK, and we are no different. Look at Bombay, more than 2,500 cases. Look at Delhi, and the way it's hugely, highly transmissible, and the fact that it has a huge potential for immune evasion and lots of breakthrough cases happening, reinfections happening. And given the kind of population that India has, if large number of people get infected, then probably you'll end up burdening the healthcare system. And again, we might be in trouble. We saw that happening in the second wave.
Right.
So we don't want to go through that route. But early data from UK, South Africa, Denmark, where there are lots of patients, does suggest that the hospitalization rates are pretty low compared to the Delta variant. And that's how it should stay.
Okay,
And
let
if the government
me
is
for a
being-
moment, let me take all your observations, which are in a way providing some sense of comfort so far to you, Dr. Srinath Reddy, because as an epidemiologist, I want to quote what an Israeli doctor has just put out on social media. He says, Omicron is literally the vaccine that vaccine companies could not make. It is attenuated, almost no hospitalization, no critical patients, no oxygenation, no intubation. Everyone will be exposed and will get it. It will result in mass herd immunity, totally replace Delta. Within 8 to 12 weeks, the world will be vaccinated. Why the panic? Show gratitude to nature for finally eliminating a man-made, lab-leaked, nasty virus. We are blessed. Do you share this optimism? Do you believe from what you're seeing? Because there are a lot of reinfections. Those who are vaccinated are getting Omicron as well. Is that, how do you see it? Do you believe this is a blessing in disguise?
Well, firstly, vaccines that are currently available do not prevent infection.
Yeah, we've got a source freeze with you, Dr. Reddy. We'll try and come back to you in a moment. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Reddy.
So they do, over a period of time, reduce the transmission a bit, but essentially their primary purpose is to prevent severe disease. So to that extent, it's not surprising that people do have an infection. Evidence from South Africa also is now revealing that people who have been vaccinated or even have had a natural infection still seem to have a very good T-cell immunity or cellular immunity, which prevents disease and particularly effective even against Omicron. So apart from the natural reduction in the virulence of the virus itself, it appears that the body defenses of people who have been previously infected or immunized are also now still preserved in terms of cellular immunity, which prevents the disease, not the mild illness. I had said in an interview somewhere 2 weeks ago that this virus might actually prove to be like a live attenuated virus vaccine. And to that extent may actually provide
I'm going to try and get your audio right because we're getting a slight echo, but we'll come to you in a moment again. Dr. Joshi, you want to add to that? Therefore, given what we are hearing from all of you, that this is mild symptoms, does not necessarily need to hospitalizations, is the treatment that you all are recommending in Mumbai very different to what it was during Delta? Are you saying home care is preferable, Dr. Joshi, unless someone gets really high, consistent fever?
Absolutely. I think this disease, Omicron, has to be predominantly managed at home or maybe in a institutional quarantine, but may not need hospitalization, severe disease, ventilator, oxygen, and all the high-tech medications which are desired. One thing is very clear-cut, Rajdeep, that I have tweeted this also earlier, that this could be a blessing in disguise because it's a milder variant. If you see evolution, when you get a very highly mutant virus, though it is rapidly transmissible, if it is going to have less hospitalizations and less mortality, eventually it will make COVID endemic. I don't think we can get rid of COVID that easily. It will become endemic. New variants of concerns may try to emerge. We don't know whether they will emerge or not. But currently, if it replaces Delta, the Delta is the more sinister virus. Delta is the killer. But I have one concern that in the transition time, it is very crucial that we will still have 10-20% of Delta. And that Delta can still deteriorate. So it is very important to have RT-PCRs where the S-gene deletion is easy to pick up because genome sequencing takes a prolonged time. And our national labs take their own sweet time to disclose the results maybe after, just like they did for Delta after a month or two. So we can't depend on them.
But are you telling me, doctor, that an RT-PCR test will tell me whether I've got Omicron or Delta?
If the S gene is there and is picked up and it is deleted, the likelihood of Delta is, likelihood of Omicron is higher. And if the S gene is present, the likelihood of Delta is there. So at least we can make a distinction there without actually a genome sequence. And that will guide the clinician that this Delta needs more attention or Delta derivative needs more attention.
No, but you're telling me RT-PCR can definitively tell me whether it is Delta or Omicron?
It cannot definitely tell you. It is presumptive, and it will be reasonably just like they did in South Africa. They had a TACPAT system where there was a S gene mutation and S gene deletion, which was able to clearly delineate it.
Okay.
See, the whole idea is the basics won't change. The vital monitoring at home won't change. The pulse oximetry and 6-minute walk test won't change.
Okay.
And if you see somebody deteriorating, you'll still need to admit the patient and take care of the patient. So that won't change.
Okay.
But in Delta, it was rapid and the deterioration was there, and it is a more sinister virus. So that even now, what is happening in Europe and USA, what is killing people is still the Delta. It is not Omicron.
Okay.
And that is something which we need to decipher, that in the transition time, when the transition is happening, we need to distinguish the Delta from Omicron, and that is very crucial. And if we have the S gene deletion mapping easily available in commercial labs, it will be easier for the clinicians to diagnose those patients and keep a better vigil. But currently it is all about caution, vigil, and doing the basics right. I don't think there is any rocket science in it. And as long as you monitor it appropriately and keep a vigil on the patient for those 14 days, it is good enough.
Okay, close to 14 days. Some are saying all you need is 5 days of to recover. Dr. Thakkar, what are you recommending to patients? Are you recommending to patients home care, and is there a specific line of treatment?
So definitely home care is the order of the day. And that too, since they have all been vaccinated, maybe some of them already have been infected. I'm looking at the bottom line. As a clinician on the field, I cannot wait for the genome sequencing result to come. But I can see when I treat that it's a mild disease. So you need to stay at home. None of them have their saturations dropping. Their temperatures peter out in a couple of days. How long to keep themselves quarantined? Well, the textbook and ICMR and the government still says 14 days. But if they've had their 2 shots of vaccine, I sometimes even say 12 days. Of course, CDC has come up with a 5-day guideline, which I'm a little reticent to accept straight away, because in 5 days' time, nobody can say that the infectivity of the individual has disappeared. Okay. So I'm happy to swallow 10 to 12 days. But only time will tell, and probably we'll need to come down on those days also, because COVID will become so rampant and commonplace that people cannot stay at home for more than 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
So I think we'll have to strike a balance between one and the other.
Dr. Reddy, we had a problem with your audio. You're back with us. The question I was raising was, given the contagiousness of Omicron, should we now say that we are in a third wave, but it's a milder third wave, and therefore will possibly be easier to control?
I would say that, certainly. Depends upon how we define the third wave, whether only in terms of cases who are infected and diagnosed, and even that may be an undercount, because many people who are mildly infected may not actually get tested. Or are we counting it in terms of serious illness which requires hospitalization? If it is the latter, then I don't think we'll have a large third wave. But even then, it's in our interest to stretch out that wave by trying to keep the numbers as low at any given time, because we do not want even that stress on the hospital. But we need to pay particular attention to elderly people and immunocompromised people who still may be at some risk.
That's an important point you're making. You're saying the elderly still remain vulnerable, Dr. Reddy?
Yes, in the sense that even when you take influenza, it is the elderly and the immunocompromised who do suffer serious illness and even death. This may not be as deadly as Delta, but even then, compared to the younger people, the elderly people may have a little more serious illness. So we do need to protect them, and that's why they need to be prioritized for additional vaccines, as well as keep them protected from exposure as well.
Dr. Tikku, is there a line of treatment that you're giving? I asked this with Dr. Thakkar as well. He says 14 days still ideal, even though there are countries, including France now, which is doing 1 week of home care. What is the idea? What is the treatment that you're recommending at the moment to your patients?
Well, there's no specific treatment as of now. In the initial 1 week, we just have to treat the symptoms. It's just symptomatic treatment for fever. You give paracetamol. Basically, you have to watch the saturation, look at symptoms like chest pain, breathlessness, which tells you that the disease is progressive, it's going to the lungs, and that's when you need hospitalization. But as of now, whatever we're seeing, mild cases, fever, some runny nose, sore throat, so most of them are not progressive. But again, there is no specific treatment. Now we have an antiviral which has been given emergency use authorization, molnupiravir, but it's not available as of now. But in future, we might be able to use that. But again, no specific treatment. When it's progressive, then you need steroids, then you need hospitalization. Hopefully, not many people would need that because the disease seems to be mild as of now.
Right.
But we might have a mild disease because we're vaccinated or we've had previous infection. But if we bring it back home and give it to our parents, grandparents, or the vulnerable population, they can be in trouble. So it does pose a huge risk given the kind of transmission it has. And the fact that the doubling rate is 2-3 days, and it has a huge potential to disrupt the healthcare system and critical services. So we have to be vigilant, and we have to wear a mask. We have to get vaccinated. The ones who haven't gotten their second shot should go for it, because vaccination won't prevent the infection, but it does prevent severe disease, death, and that's what we want from the vaccine.
Okay.
And again, the government is doing whatever it has to do. It's our job to be to contribute and to be responsible enough and wear an N95 mask. Don't wear these cloth masks. They don't give you enough protection. That's the message I would like to send here.
Okay. Dr. Thakkar, we've got the potential of a pill which should be available soon. We've got boosters for the elderly which start on the 10th of January. Does that give a sense of greater security? Do you believe that these pills are something that could become a game changer, or is it premature at this stage to suggest that taking a pill will change our ability to combat these symptoms?
Well, I'm going to play it very straight and clinically. The pill has been introduced yesterday in our country. There are 2 to 3 companies making it. But it's 4 tablets twice a day for 5 days. 40 tablets to be taken, 800 milligrams twice a day for 5 days. Given the fact that this is probably Omicron, given the fact that cases are mild, and given the fact that most of them are vaccinated, would I give this 40 tablet load to my patient? It's an important clinical decision which will vary from person to person. We had a similar pill in the second and first wave called Favipiravir, which slowly petered out and was watered away. Just because Molnupiravir is available, I don't know whether I'm going to give it to one and all, because in 3 days' time, they are turning asymptomatic and probably getting everything away. And this is how everybody was treated in the West, in South Africa: paracetamol, symptomatic syrups, steam inhalation, a lot of vitamins, isolation. So it remains to be seen how well Molnupiravir will aid us in diagnosis and treatment.
You know, given all that I'm hearing, Dr. Joshi, let's look at government's reaction, including the Maharashtra government. More and more restrictions, night curfews. Is there a sense of panic that because we don't want anything to go wrong as it did with Delta and the second wave, we are going overboard this time? I mean, we have a situation in Hyderabad today where, the pubs and bars are open, in Goa where they're open, and Mumbai is going in for a very harsh, tough restrictions, including night curfews.
I don't think we should go into any panic mode. All we need is caution. More than 5 people need not gather. We need to reduce crowding. And, point is that we need to have responsible behavior from citizens. But in festive times, party times, people have forgotten that, and people are taking COVID very lightly. And the numbers are overwhelming. So I personally don't see any major challenges, or there is no need for these major knee-jerk reactions. Having said that, we don't want congregation spots for fast transmission. Because remember, if the cases explode more than 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 per day, the infrastructure still will crumble. And if a small percentage becomes moderate disease or severe disease, it will still strain the system. So it's very important to recognize that there is no bypassing the responsible behavior. Clearly, double masking is the order of the day. There is no need for cloth mask, use N95 or surgical 3-ply mask. And clearly, completing the vaccination, including booster, is the order of the day. But I think the crowding and air ventilation needs to be focused on. And I think if some curbs are put in transiently for a couple of weeks, they are reasonable. They should not be extremist. And there is, as I said, the healthcare infrastructure, the lockdown was only thought, there won't be any lockdown. But lockdown is only thought only if the healthcare infrastructure was getting overburdened. Here, most of the hospitals, even in Mumbai with 2,500 cases, are empty. There are beds available.
So,
in fact, non-COVID work is occupying all the beds. So clearly, this is a mild disease, which we are seeing. And in mild disease, it is basically being cautious and vigilant, which is far more important than panic and knee-jerk reactions.
Dr. Reddy, I mentioned boosters. They will be should be available from the 10th of January. Do you believe that we really need boosters? I had Dr. Mulial, the epidemiologist, on my show 2 nights ago. He said your earlier vaccines were the booster. I mean, is it necessary in your view that those above 60 in particular take these boosters that are now being made available, given the fact that almost all the cases of Omicron involve people who are double vaccinated?
Firstly, I think we cannot assume that everybody in India who is vulnerable and susceptible has been vaccinated fully or has been infected earlier and therefore has a full level of immunity. I would think that we ought to also recognize that people who were vaccinated early in 2021 or who might have been infected even in March, April, May, may be having diminishing immunity now, even if they did have a fairly high level of immunity at one point in time. Omicron may not be the real threat now, and we may not need boosters only to protect against Omicron. But as has been pointed out, Delta has not yet been fully replaced. It is still around in parts of the country. And third, we do not know which other variant might come in again later. Therefore, it is prudent to protect the people who are most vulnerable, that is, the elderly and the immunocompromised, and the people who are likely to have high loads of repeated exposure to the virus, that is, the healthcare workers and other essential workers. It's a no regrets policy.
Let me now make one final contentious argument that I'm hearing from doctors, that Omicron could mark the end of COVID-19, is what some have suggested. Dr. Reddy, do you want to plunge into that? Will Omicron lead to the end of COVID-19? Are we seeing the last phase of the pandemic?
Well, evolutionary biology has indicated always that over a period of time, viruses, if they do not have an easy path to transmission, will increase their infectivity and reduce their virulence, and over a period of time tend to coexist with us. And it is possible that Omicron is very much on the track. Whether it is the final form that it is going to assume or one of the near final forms, I cannot say. But if we continue to have the caution in terms of masking, avoiding crowds, and ensuring adequate vaccination coverage, the virus will change its behavior. Therefore, it's important for us to change our behavior to nudge it towards that level of coexistence.
Okay, that's reassuring. You want a final word, Dr. Thakkar, as always, on that? Are we in the last? It could be a potential wave in terms of case load because of the contagiousness, but because it appears that virulence is down, are we in the last phase of the virus?
This is a wave, probably the last phase. We are looking to the end of this journey, but it is the journey that matters in the end. And it's most important that we take this tail end of the journey well to go and meet the end properly. I agree with all my panelists. Caution, precaution, masking, don't overdo it. Don't run for medication. Don't run to the hospital. The cocktails are not for everybody. The pills are for the chosen few. Rely on clinical sense. Leave it to the doctors. Don't strain unnecessarily the healthcare authorities.
I think that's a positive note on which to end. I know that the caseload numbers can alarm people, but I think we need to look beyond the numbers and actually look at the direction which this virus has taken. And lots of insights offered by our doctors today. As always, a pleasure listening to doctors. Thank you so much for joining me here on the news today. And while